Hello back, this is video number 8. It could be the last, or there could be a part 9 to this lecture, Monolithic versus Layered. We finished talking about Monolithic, introduction, then Monolithic, then Layered, then comparison of Monolithic and Layered. We touched up on preparation guidelines. Now we're going to talk about monolayered, but before we do that, since we talked about shade matching and we showed a couple of cases of centrals that we matched the shade with it, there's many shade matching techniques. There's the ELAB now that's, really popular and adapting more companies and more porcelains inside of it. The company I use, CM, is one of them, and so is Emax and GC and other companies. Vita, I believe so too. So there is the ELAB, there is when you take photos with the gray card and everything, the balancing, the white balancing technique. And then there is, these are older techniques, but I find them beneficial and not costly at all and don't need anything. They're an app and you can just download them. All right, and they help you. One of them is Emacs shade matching technique. This app simplifies shade selection through 5 basic steps. You have to dial in 5 information. Number 1 is enter the tooth shade, which is the end result. What do you want it to be? A2, for example. And then enter the indication. Is it a veneer, a crown, whatever. Enter the prep shade, which is the stump shade, stump shade 1 to ND1, ND2, whatever. The stump shade. Enter the layer thickness. And this is important. This is really important. We're going to show an example about it. The thickness is 0.5, 1.5, 1.0, whatever. The thickness, the buccal thickness, of course, of the prosthesis. And enter the material. What are you going to use? So you can see that the first 4 I need to get from the dentist, or I need to take my own photos or my own readings, but it's a clinic side thing. Enter the tooth shade. End result, enter the indication, veneer or a crown, enter the prep shade, ND, enter the layer thickness or the stump shade, and then enter the layer thickness. This I can enter the layer thickness, and I can enter the material used. The material used here could be an ingot or a CAD/CAM, blocks, different blocks, whatever. Once you enter these 5 pieces of information, through the completion of each step, the app provides very precise determinations for suitable blocks, ingots, or discs. So, in other words, it will suggest, first choice will suggest MT, medium translucency, A2 ingot, for example. And then second choice would be LT A1 ingot. And then the least choice, if you really have to, you can go with LT A2. All right? It's pretty precise. It works. Same thing from Katana, Noritake, Kurari. From Kurari Noritake, the Katana selection has almost the same thing, but these once you flip the wheel of fortune here, it will give you options and what to use and all kind of stuff. The same technique, but by dialing in, you want light color, medium color instead of the prep shade. Instead of being ND, you just dial in an easier way here, and then the target shade, and then recommended Katana Zirconia shades, UTML, STML, UTML, supposedly that you have all of these blocks, and then you click OK, and it even helps you with the staining and glazing examples here. Same idea, different techniques. All right. Now, I just want to say, I didn't use this technique for this specific case, by the way, but I'm just telling you that after a while you develop a sixth sense of how you do it and what's going on. If you really look at this case, you will find that in this case there is a very dark stump shade. The dentist did not have the ND stump shade guide, so he used this. It's even darker than A4. All right, and it's a crown, and there's good reduction. Here there is a veneer. The veneer is really white, and the end shade we want is I remember B2 or something like that, and then we removed the stain finally. The patient didn't like the cervical stains, even though the stains are on the natural teeth because of I don't know, he did braces, and then there's much of stains here. Anyway, the point is the bulk shade here. We chose a color was A2, if I'm not mistaken, A2 or B2. or whatever it was. But the thing is, we have two different stump shades, two different prostheses. This is a crown, but it's very dark stump shade, and this is a veneer, a thin veneer, but it's very white. And this is the result. All right, there is masking for both. They look the same, whatever. Now, would you think that this is a pressable? I pressed lithium disilicate ingot. Would you think that I pressed the same ingot for the same both of them, or did I use different ingots for each one of them, because this is very dark and this is very light, this is a crown and this is a veneer? Truth is, I pressed both of them LT, low translucent. And the reason there is enough masking, here you're wondering, oh my god, this is, you could mask this with low translucent. Yes, I can mask this with low translucent because I had very good clearance, a 1 millimeter or a 1.2 or a 0.9, I don't remember, but it was more than 0.7, which is good enough for you to mask that kind of stump shade, no problems. Same thing here, the veneer was thin, but it wasn't very thin. It was like maybe 0.5 reduction or 0.6 reduction. It was good enough to mask the underneath colors here, the underneath shades, by just pressing the same ingot for both veneer and crown, and the result was fine. This is after the patient had us remove this trial for removal of the stains, but anyway, there is complete masking of the underlying structures. Now that will lead us to talking about monolayered, which is if you Google monolayered, you're not going to find anything. You find that monolayered is a layer of a skin, is the outer layer of a skin. They call it a monolayer or something. But I meant in dental, you won't find any monolayered. It's like a registered mark for me, you know. You're not going to find monolayered. But it's just an expression to say that it's not layered and it's not monolithic. It's both. Well, once it's not monolithic, then it's layered. But I'm saying I wanted to hint something that this is, yes, it is very partially layered and it is monolithic, but let me show you the technique, how it works, and why do I use it, and what influences me to do so, okay? So we're going to talk about monolayered. First of all, this is from Glidewell, 2013. Crowns breakdown in December 2013. They did this chart to see what breaks down, why, what's going on. And I find it very, very surprising, because you look at IPS Emacs, they mean lithium disilicate. They're still using Emacs for lithium disilicate. Lithium disilicates, the anterior breakage is 44%, while the posterior breakage is 14%. Isn't that surprising? Aren't we supposed to see more breakages in the load zone, in the occlusal posterior functional zone, than we see it in the anterior zone, in the aesthetic zone? So that's something, you know. Broxizor Solid Zirconia 3159. All right, clinical zirconia, whatever that is, 15%, 3%. Again, more breakage in the anterior, less breakage in the posterior. Then PFM and full cast, of course, full cast anteriorly, there is no breakage or no anterior, except if you want to do the first monolithic type that we said about the grills that we talked about before, and then posterior 3%. Whatever. Let's talk about Emacs and clinical zirconia. These are giving the same indications. A lot more breakages in the anterior than in the posterior, which is against what people would predict, right? But I have a theory why is this happening. I think this is happening because once we go anteriorly, we only use the lithium disilicate or the clinical zirconia as a core, because it's in the aesthetic zone, and we layer. And once we layer, we establish that layering is very weak. It's about 90 megapascal of strength as a layer, where the full press, for example, lithium disilicate is 500 megapascal. You're talking about 5 times more strength. Same thing for zirconia. Zirconia is strong, but once you use it as a core and you layer on top of it, that layer of feldspathic porcelain that you layered on top of the core is not strong. The core is strong, but the layer is not strong, so there is more breakage in the anterior because we layer, because it's layered. Okay, that's the only explanation I can think of, the one and only. While in the posterior, we tend to do full press and full zirconia or full lithium disilicate, whether pressed or machined CAD/CAM. So breakages are less because it's monolithic. It's one layer. There's no chipping. There's no cheering. It's a solid one piece prosthesis. So we get less breakages, even though we have more posterior occlusal forces on the more posterior occlusal forces, of course, in this region than we have occlusal forces on the anterior, especially if you're talking about veneers or even if you're talking about crowns. It's only lateral protrusive movements. It's not like mastication forces in the back. So in other words, this and other things influenced me, and other studies influenced me to think about it. Why is the breakdown on the anterior lithium disilicate high and the anterior clinical zirconia? We said that. Is there a technique that we can use to reduce the breakdown without losing the aesthetics? Because if you only put full zirconia or only put full lithium disilicate, it's kinda, there's no characterization. Even if you use HT, high translucent, it's kinda, there's no characterization. If you want to obtain characterization, you go with staining, and staining is an outer layer, as you know, and doesn't give you the depth, the value of the layered. So what can you do? I will answer you what can I do by showing you multiple cases. This is again mobile phone photo. So when you take a photo with a cell phone, it's just not as clear, but this is how it was layered. The way I did this case, all of it, 10 upper, 10 lower veneers, okay? All of it was pressed monolithic, full press lithium disilicate, okay? Full press veneers. And then I did my cutback here and there and wherever I needed to, and I applied porcelain, all right? Now, I don't call that layering. Mostly I can call it microlayering, you know? That's what I call it. I call my work microlayering or monolayered, okay? Monolayering, monolayered prosthesis or micro-layered prosthesis. Now, let me show you more examples. Same thing here. This guy wanted the square-shaped teeth. I don't like the square-shaped teeth, but you would understand why in a little bit. This is a cantilever, lateral cantilever, a little bit of characterization. BL2, very white teeth. The reason he wanted, because he always had oval teeth and he wanted to change that fact by any means. He said, just give me squares, I hate these oval teeth, and they are very, very long. So he ended up with this upper and lower. We did the upper first, and this was a cantilever bridge, and then, you know, monolayered, microlayered. All right, black and white, monolayered. Now let's look at different cases that's not very white. This B2, B3. I showed this case before, and I showed the pre-photography. You see this? You see the profile here. Broken centrals. They had to be long. We have to lengthen these centrals. Substitute for the breakage. It's all veneers, 6 veneers. Not very much prepared buccally, especially the canines. But here I have enough clearance and wrap around mesial distal to distribute, you know, the width evenly and make it like kind of mirror image as much as possible. Okay, that's the end result. You can see that there is translucency here. There is grading of the shade. There is, you know, more yellowish cervical, less yellowish here. You can see that there is work that has been done, but and this is better. This is with a black contraster in the back, so you really can see that there is a bit of work that's done here. The question is this layered or monolithic? Like I said, this is monolayered or micro-layered. First of all, let me show you the case in the patient mouth. All right. You see, no matter how long you make these teeth, you barely can see anything in the freeway zone. But anyway, with the smiling, you can see a bit more. Anyway, that's not my concern. My question is, how was it made? Was it monolithic or layered? This is how it was made. I'm sorry for all the scrap on here and there, but anyway. This is how it's made. This is my monolayer. This is my micro layering. A little bit here, a little bit there, whatever, color coded. I only put porcelain where I need to put porcelain. You know, after I get it fully pressed, the wax would look very nice, and then they press it, and then they preserve the shape. But I do a little bit of a grinding and a little bit of help. Whenever I see that there is a missing line angle, or I want to enhance anything, I just do it with micro layering. And of course I did cut back here, but you can't see it because I should have taken a photo of the cutback. All right, and I micro layer, and I might sometimes I do it one time. Once I bake this, it's done. I glaze it, and sometimes I micro layer again. Okay, this was the second time, but I want you to imagine that the first time wasn't much more than this. Actually, maybe it was less. All right, so, or maybe this was the first time, but anyway, it's micro layering. It's nothing. It's like 95% of fully pressed lithium disilicate 500 megapascal of strength, plus a little bit of 90 megapascal of strength ceramics. Do you understand the idea? And to me, the end result is acceptable. I don't need more translucency than this, especially in B2, B3, especially that the patient doesn't have very translucent opposing teeth or adjacent teeth. And why would you go layering if you can go monolithic? And why would you go full layering if you can go mono layered, or if you can go micro layering? And that works on very, very limited spaces. I will show you right now very thin veneers that were micro layered as well. But the thing is, everything gets to me with waxed up really well, pressed really well, and then I micro layer. Same thing with zirconia. I get full milled zirconia, then I do a minimum of cutback, because until yet I don't use ultra translucent zirconia yet, or super translucent zirconia. I use HT plus, high translucent zirconia, in the range of 4 deuterium stabilized zirconia, if you guys remember, about the range of 750 megapascal, 800 megapascal. That's what I use. So it's a bit translucent, but it's strong at the same time. So I do my micro layering on the zirconia the same way I do it in lithium disilicates, but you have to be careful grinding the zirconia due to the micro cracks and all kind of stuff. You have to use aqua finishers for grinding. It's better that way to minimize the risk of micro cracks. And then I don't cut back a lot with zirconia. Usually zirconia, I use it in the posterior zone, premolars and beyond. So anyway, you don't do much of cutback on zirconia. But lithium disilicates, you can chop it off, you know, but still I use aqua finisher, and water is always there. But I mean, get the shape that you want, and then even if you want to cut back here or there or there, or you see that you need enamel here, or you need deep dentine here, all right, or you need cervical with deep dentine here, or you need opals, all right, you need to layer with opals and there is no space for opals, cut it back and do your opals, no problems. But start with monolithic. That's how I do it, and that's how I justify to myself that, you know, I went from the strongest thing that I can give to the patient, to the doctor, and then we just put the weak porcelains where we need to adjust the cosmetics. That's it pretty much. All right, different photos. You know, lithium disilicates, they're much more translucent than zirconia, I still think, even though this is a low translucent B2 ingot. All right, now I showed this before, same thing. These are veneers, upper and lower, very thin veneers, 0.5, 0.7 some areas, 0.8, maybe 1 millimeter in certain areas. But I can assure you that in certain areas you can see the color of the stone here and there. It's very thin in certain areas, especially one of the canines. I forgot which one it was. I think it was this one. It's very thin. It's like 0.4. All right. So you can go thin, leave all of the, you know, because in the veneers you have mesial and distal wings, as to speak. Mesial and distal wraparounds, mesial and distal wings. These wings, you really want it in a full pressed lithium disilicate. You don't want to layer there. All right. The same thing. Why would you layer on a cervical that you cannot? In most of our work here, we don't put call it a neck or a buccal neck here. You know, this elevation here, and then you go towards the inside, the lingual, as you build up your. You don't do that. Most of the shape that's adapted here and people like is straight shape. So we don't have a neck. So why would you apply any porcelain here? You don't have space anyway. Cervical preparation is very minimum here. It's probably 0.4, okay, 0.5. So there isn't much to layer. If you need you can use a little bit of stains, especially actually on bleach. You rarely get to use any stains anyway. But I'm saying you can give it opacity by stains, or if you find that it's low translucency, it's good masking. It's not medium translucency or high translucency. It's low translucency. It does a good masking actually. But if you need to, yes, you can grind down to 0.3, 0.2 if you're very careful, and you can apply whatever dentine or deep dentine or cervical mixed with dentine in this area. You can intensify the dentine in this area. You can do whatever you want, but I suggest that you start with monolithic. This is the case cemented. This is the case on the Czech model. This is only wax. I do a wax model, something I call it a wax model. Gingiva gets a little bit expensive, and then you can do wax model easy. You just wax the inside of the impression around the gum and pour it again, and you have your wax model. See 0.4, round 0.4. Look how thin. This is the case that you looked at here. This is the case, the same case. All right, look here. You're talking about some areas, it's nothing. It's very translucent. It's very thin. It's very thin. I know it doesn't show very well because my concentration was in the caliper, but whatever, it is thin. All right, 0.4 in certain areas. That's me holding that same case in my hand. With wet water, look, you can see through. It gets thin. Over here, for example, this central has a bulk of dentine, or say it has thickness. But look over here where I did my micro layering, nothing, almost nothing. This layering by the way, or light reflection is not a crack. Same thing here. You can barely layer anything in the centrals and laterals and canines, and the rest I don't layer at all. You see the premolars? They're thin anyway. What are you gonna layer here? Look at this premolar. It's barely a shell. Okay. This is a different case. This is even whiter. I know you guys hate me by now because of the very, very white teeth, but they're very popular here. They're very popular. You can barely layer anything on top of BL1. It's BL1. It's super, super white. And anything that you try to do bluish, grayish, enamelish, opal, everything tends to be minimum, because you're talking about BL1. All right, this total layering for this guy, it's total layering. This was a core with full, not total layering. This was a core CAD/CAM wax. We milled this in wax, 20 upper lower, more than 20, because we had a couple of molars I think in the back here. So we pressed everything CAD/CAM. Not pressed, CAD/CAM milled wax, and then we pressed all of this wax into lithium disilicates. But anyway, it was a lot of lithium disilicates anyway. So anyway, we cut back the whole facial. All right, not just micro layering, we cut back the whole facial. So you can say that we ended up almost with layering. But I don't see much difference between layering and micro layering really. Let me show you monolithic. Look at these two crowns, premolars, prepped, cemented. All right. Now these premolars had zero porcelain in them. Was fully pressed, contacts, adjacent occlusal points and contacts. Everything was established with wax. You press, you just finish, and then you glaze. All right. And all of this characterization was obtained by stains and then a double glaze on top of it. In other words, if you look inside, you only see the one color, whatever this is, B2 maybe, A2, but the rest, it's all just stains. Now, my question would be, why would you do a two premolars here? Why would you do these in anything but monolithic? They're not in the anterior zone, or say that they are right behind, first premolar and second premolar. But there isn't much that you can do for the patient for layering to give them something better than this, especially that there is cavities here and there is amalgam as you saw and all kind of stuff. and this blends in and give him, there's breakages and there's all kind of stuff in his teeth. So why wouldn't we give him the strongest monolithic that we have and still matches the surrounding dentition? In this case, it was a lithium disilicate, fully pressed, low translucent ingot, and staining only. Was 0 porcelain. All right. Same case. I guess we showed it before. Yes, same case. All of this characterization just with stains. The same thing on the other side. He came. We did this after a while. All right. I wasn't very happy with the matching here, but the dentist cemented anyway. I was supposed to put a bit more whitish here and there. But anyway, even the illusion of translucency on a full pressed lithium disilicate, you can work on illusions of translucency a little bit. Okay. You can do that. Like monolithics are not that bad, in other words, especially if you do them in lithium disilicates. And some people even get very good with zirconia. This without staining. This dentist take things without staining. After I don't like anything without staining or characterization anyway. Bleach 3, all right. Bleach 3 case, same thing. Bleach 3 a little bit more yellowish than bleach 2 and bleach 1. But still, you do the whole mouth in just veneers, and maybe one crown was the molar, something like that. But yes, super white, no translucency, nothing. The super white guy, the BL0 guy, same thing, shills, veneers, 0.5 millimeters, all pressed, all monolithic, only glazing. Even the textures, most of the textures or some of the textures are obtained in wax, the rest are obtained by carving and then just, double glaze and cement. It's pretty thin, but I can't show you how thin it is. I don't think I took a photo of how thin these veneers. This dentist does the overlap thing. She likes the overlap, but over here, you see, you can tell that it's a thin shield. Even the overlap is really thin. Okay. The same thing, BL1 or BL2, super white, a bit of texturing on the necks and everything, and that's all you can do. Same thing, different cases, I believe. Is it the same case? No, I don't think so. This has 2 premolars, this has 1 premolar here. So different cases, same technique. All right, just fully pressed and stained. On the white shades, there isn't much that you can do. In other words, it's a thin shell, thin buccal window technique preparation shell. All right, veneers or lumineers or whatever. Same thing on the lower. The same way you do the upper, you will have to do the lower. All right. These are lumineers, the very thin veneers that I talked about before. See how thin you can see the gypsum materials underneath. This was inserted in many areas 0.2. All right. The overall was 0.3, 0.4, but in certain areas where I needed to make the canine look smaller, I had to go aggressive. All right. So it was really thin. Okay, that's one of the guys with his temporary mock-up, and with his final. I don't think I took a final photos for this guy. I am not sure. A little bit of micro layering, not much at all. Just a little bit of micro layering with polarized eye, without polarized eye, with fully polarized eye, and flashes. Alright, just to show you the amount of a little bit of micro layering that I could have done on this case. This is after cementing the upper and not cementing the lower. That's why the lower doesn't look good. The lower is not cemented. We cemented the upper and the lower came back for a bit of adjustments, occlusal adjustments and stuff. That's his profile, that's why the lower is messed up. Same case but different lighting. Just to show you the textures, there is a bit of textures, but there's almost no translucency in these cases. Again, you're talking about 0.5 millimeter of thickness in the centrals, around 0.5 millimeter in different cases. This is not the same case. Okay, this is a different case. In this case, I had labial reduction, more labial reduction. So texturing and micro layering here was easier, but the rest of the case is all fully pressed. All right, just more and more cases, and that's one fully layered case, zircon core, and then fully layered according to the the tooth next to it. Unfortunately, the dentist didn't take the final. After cementation, they cemented from the first time. She told me it was a very good match, but no photos. I don't have any documentation of it. Let me stop here. We finished the monolayered or the microlayered technique that I said I will. My technique that I said I will, speak about the science behind it and why do I do it. And of course, there's market generators too. I mean, the market here is thin, very white. You can just press and glaze and give them the shell they want, But even in other markets, I would encourage people to think monolithic, and then monolayered or microlayered, and then finally layered. Because layered, yes, you're giving nicer aesthetics, but you are for sure, by numbers that I showed, you are for sure by numbers and statistics giving a much weaker prosthesis to the patient. So you have to think, if he's a younger patient, do they have strong occlusal forces? Do they have attrition, night grinding? Who doesn't, right? Freeway disease these days. So whatever, we all live in big cities, and you see some kind of wear on the teeth that's surprising, even on younger ages. But anyway, I wanted to give you the whole idea, broaden your horizons as much as possible, and mine, and see whatever works for you. Just don't be limited and know that you have options. That by itself is a big accomplishment, to know that you have options. You don't have to do the same thing the same way all the time. Just give me a core, I will layer. You can do give me a core, I will layer. And then the next case you can do it, just give me monolithic and I will stain it. And then just give me monolithic with buccal cutback. And then just give me monolithic and I will do a micro cutback and a micro layering. And then just give me a core and I have to layer the whole case. It has many characterization that needs to be established in layering. Fine. But know that you have options and you can pick and choose. And I want you really to think about the whole case as a whole. Think about strength, but never overlook aesthetics. Think about aesthetics, never overlook aging. Or low temperature degradation. Okay, choose lithium disilicates if you think that it's prettier, but think about the occlusal force. Why not using zirconia? Yes, use zirconia in certain places, but know that layering of the zirconia, and once you layer anything on top of zirconia, forget about itching right now. Without zirconia, you layer anything on top of zirconia, the bond between the ceramics and the zirconia is not as strong and as good as being monolithic. So think about the whole picture and discuss this. That's what I really want from this series and the other lectures that I go, is to elevate the communication level, is to get to a point where we can really, as dental technicians and dentists, communicate on a higher level to we have all of these choices in the lab, and the doctor is able to cement any of these choices. It's just a matter of talking to each other, discussing every case, and trying to give the patient the best ultimate prosthesis for his or her case. And I guess this is the highest ethical, moral level of practicing in dentistry and in everything in life. Thank you for listening. I'll come back to you just to touch up on communication gap and a couple of things in the next video. Thank you.